Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome you for this new series announcement. Technocrat Talks is bringing you a new unique series uh, wherein we will be viewing the mechanisms of biological intelligence through application of engineering sense. Uh, you will wonder why an engineer like me, who is not supposed to know anything about the subject, is talking on this area. Now, one thing is that this subject has so many gray areas, okay, which have remained unexplored because of the boundaries of disciplines and domains in which professionals and researchers and academics grow. So generally, they will have some blind spots which they will not be able to see. Now, when you view it from an external perspective, from an engineering perspective, which has never been applied in this domains, probably you will see some interesting possibilities which have been missed out. And that's the crux of that's what innovation is made up of, applying the sense from some other domain into your domain. So with that intent, we are bringing in this series where we'll be applying engineering sense to biology. I'm sure not many people would have done it. And what has triggered this right now is, tell you a small story. I have some young friends who are dentists, and jokingly I used to tease them, saying that people are doing carpenter's job, and we should be able to hoodwink the cell intelligence and grow another set of teeth. I mean, against the damaged teeth, just like shark has thousands of teeth. Yeah. So, but other day, I mean, not so long back, one news item struck me that in UK they have actually succeeded in growing additional teeth. So now this is what could happen if professionals and researchers start thinking unusually. So that's one idea. Coming to the point that why this subject has so many gray areas. So far, most of the research and academic work, if you go through literature, it is either done by doctors, medicos, but they have actually problems approach. It's like they are like maintenance people. They are not so much interested in how the machine works, how it ought to work. They are more interested in how it does not work when there are problems, how to cure the problems, how to diagnose the problem. And nothing wrong in it. I mean, that's what is the requirement of their profession. And it's a noble thing that they are doing. But then certain parts of the problem get eclipsed. Certain theoretical aspects get eclipsed, which may not have any visible benefit for this particular domain. Okay. So it is worth looking at it from a different angle. The other breed of professionals who have worked on this subject are mostly biochemists and people from molecular biology. So, I mean, they have a fancy of isolating the root cause molecule for everything. Like they try to isolate a molecule which is responsible for good memory or intelligence. There are problems when you go to this molecular approach. For one reason that, I mean, if I equate with in engineering parlance with a car assembly performance, suppose I give you all the parts of car dismantled on floor, all the springs, all the washers, all the pistons, cylinders, hardware. Will it make any sense how they would work upon assembly? The thing is that the intelligence in biology works on account of assemblies. For instance, suppose you have a macromolecule which is stretched like a spring upon assembly. When you isolate it, you will get its structure in water or in some neutral medium. Yeah. But how it will function, how it will look, how it will perform in cytoplasm is difficult to fathom. It will be difficult to imagine also. Yeah. So that is where we have to apply a different approach that We try to be more logical from engineering sense, I mean, nature is optimized. So let us say from optimization point of view, from complexity point of view, from functional point of view, how it ought to be working. Okay. Now, another problem is there in this area is that most of the biological systems are made on very complex long chain molecules, which have very weak bonds to bind that structure. For example, if you have ionic bond, it is very strong, it will form NaCl, which is very easy to isolate, characterize, and so on. In macromolecules, of course, you have covalent bonds, you have coordinate bonds, and over and above, when you talk of assembly of molecules, you have hydrogen, which are intermittent quasi bonds. Sometimes they are there, sometimes they are not there. So they are so weak interactions that it's very difficult to investigate. Because for investigating, you need a tool which should be subtler than that. Now, where do you get a tool subtler than that, which is weaker than hydrogen? No, you will not get. So that is where you have to use deductive logic, circumstantial evidence, or whatever you call, but apply the logic from engineering point of view, how engineering system would have done it, versus of course bio system would have done it much better, much more optimized way, where hardware is multifunctional. Okay. So with that intent, we'll be viewing the various mechanisms of biological intelligence and covering the whole gamut of things, starting with cytoskeleton, that is the cellular intelligence, intelligence of a single cell, intelligence of an amoeba probably, or single cell, typical cell. Then we'll dwell upon bio hardware. What are the interesting possibilities with the protein structure? What kind of interesting possibilities the protein structure offers? Then we can talk about genetic intelligence, how genetic intelligence is archived, how it is expressed, how it is controlled so repeatably, so error proof, with proofreading function, and so on. So how does it work? How does it evolve? We can also talk about oncogenesis, how cells multiply, how they differentiate, how different tissues are built, what kind of different properties get leveraged to make those tissues functioning as per their requirement of physiological system. Okay. Then we talk a little bit on bioenergetics. You have fuel and you have oxygen, so it means fire. How do you tame the fire so that there's no damage and you have the right energy, the right time at the right place to make the system tick? Then, of course, the most glamorous aspect is the neural intelligence. And how does human brain work and relationship with mind and brain? How biosensors work? What is behind the dreams? What is analysis? What is synthesis? What is recalling? What is interconnection of information? Most of AI is built around that, but they have oversimplified the concepts because they have oversimplified the notional hardware, realize in software. So the neuron is realized in a software entity. Much simpler connectivity, etc. With much simpler logics. Okay. So that's what we will also examine. And then we talk about how the body grows from a single cell, fusion of two cells to the complete body with so many tissues, with elaborate, repeatable architecture, which is quite robust, quite error-proof. So how does it do it? It's the growth dynamics which interconnects neurons to particular muscles, particular nerves. Interesting how the mapping of input-output in terms of engineering, suppose I equate it with a programmable logic control. So what is the IO map? Which input gets connected where? All that is decided by the growth dynamics. So we'll see the growth dynamics. Then we see about how medicines Mostly the medicines in allopathy are hardware level treatment, but there are therapies which work on system level, on software level. Also, of course, nowadays in allopathy, you have system level medications based on steroids and all that. Yeah, but how do therapies work through biological intelligence? And not to be left far behind, how does food work through biological intelligence? Because food, more than nutrition, is also data. This aspect has been thoroughly neglected in the studies so far. Then we talk about some hypothetical possibilities of superhuman life form, how superhuman life form could be different, how it could look like. And lastly, to summarize the series, we'll have a talk on what engineers can learn from medicos and vice versa. So that's the idea of the total series. So behold, stay with us. Keep looking for the new releases. We'll try to make this whole series release very fast, maybe within a month or 45 days, so that you are able to go through all the videos and interrelate, because these are topics are interrelated. It's very difficult to isolate the topic, so to say. Just like it's difficult to isolate molecules, it's also difficult to isolate individual topics. They are so much interlinked. So if you have to make best of the series, you have to watch all the 12 videos. With this, I once again invite you to watch this new series, and please give us feedback. Please like if you like the videos, and please give us publicity through word of mouth in your sphere of influence, because I must admit that I am not known in this particular domain. I am venturing into a domain which is alien. So I need some people to handhold me, some people to advise me, some people to support to go from there. So the request to give publicity to this one, to those who could be interested, and of course those who could be interested could be medicals, doctors, engineers, researchers, and anybody who is interested in intelligence. With this, bye bye for the day, and I invite you to watch these videos.